All right, I'm here with an updated look at my Xbox collection, the original Xbox, which we cannot call Xbox One anymore. This is a library that's pretty cool, pretty unique. You don't see a lot of people talking about it. I would say it's underrated for sure, and still inexpensive to collect for. And that's something I think a lot of people should keep in mind. If you're interested in this era of games, there's a lot of exclusive games for the Xbox, and none of them are very pricey. I think, and I know I'm an anomaly because I go out to a lot of garage sales. Most of my collection is built from garage sales, flea markets, stuff like that. I think genuinely the most I've ever paid for an original Xbox game is like $8. So even if you go to stores, you can get some solid Xbox titles for not too much, but it's inexpensive to collect for, and I think it definitely doesn't get as much recognition for the pretty cool library it has. So, and a lot of the best ports of games from that era are on the Xbox. If you want the best console port, you're better off playing a lot of these games on Xbox rather than like PS2. So, something to keep in mind for sure. I don't know what that is there. Some dust there. Advent Rising. This is a very strange one. This was supposed to be like a big AAA beginning of a franchise that Majesco was putting out. And of course, Advent Rising doesn't get too much talk these days because it flopped pretty bad. This and like the original Psychonauts were like the two games that kind of put Majesco out. But this was supposed to be like a big deal. Didn't quite end up being a big deal, but interesting. Not a very special game. I've not played all the way through it or anything, but kind of messed around with it. Nothing amazing. I think some people went on from this game to work at like Sony Santa Monica and stuff like that, but interesting kind of time capsule. They really wanted Advent Rising to like be a thing, and it just wasn't. Alias, based off of the hit ABC television program. I think it was on ABC, right? I don't know. Apex, a Xbox exclusive racing game published by Atari. Nothing too. I like to, when I see exclusives for Xbox and like GameCube and stuff, I like to just keep them in the collection. So weird that this one was only on Xbox, but Azric: Rise of Parathia. This is published by Microsoft, another Xbox exclusive. Just one of those games. Xbox and Microsoft, they were publishing a lot of stuff, just trying to see what would stick, what wouldn't. We don't see Azric in the lineup alongside, Marcus Phoenix and Master Chief and Forza Car. So, obviously he didn't quite make the cut. But Batman Begins. Always weird that this was the only like tie-in of the Nolan games, the Nolan movies. And not especially very good game, the console version of Batman Begins. I know there was a Dark Knight game that got canceled, so that never came out or anything like that. But interesting. I mean, I guess by 2009, they already had the Arkham series coming out and everything, so I guess really why bother? But too bad. Missed potential there, for sure. Another Batman game, Batman Rise of Sin Tzu. Not another one that's not so hot. There's a lot of bad Batman games. What's that Kemco Batman game on the GameCube that's like pretty awful? This isn't like that level, but that's an era of a lot of licensed Batman games, a lot of them not great, a lot of them not awful, and a lot of them just kind of exist. So A Bard's Tale. This is an In Exile like RPG. It's funny now that Microsoft, I wanted to say Nintendo, Microsoft owns In Exile now, so, but it's kind of neat. This is the game that has the legendary For a Really Disturbing Image flip disc over, and obviously it's reflective the other side of the disc, so I see that all the time. I feel like, you see that meme quite often of people being like, this game was so savage, but I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it being the disc for Bard's Tale. Blinks the Time Sweeper. This is developed by Artoon. Now they're Arzest, who made like Sonic, Superstars and Yoshi's New Island, stuff like that. This is published by Microsoft. I think they tried to have Blinks be like their big mascot. Didn't quite work out. There was a sequel. These games aren't awful, but I mean, Blinks kind of falls into that camp of like random mascots that no one cares about. That you'll hear people, bring up random, oh, look, it's Gex, and oh, it's, whatever. And Blinks is usually in the midst of those and not on that top echelon. But a neat idea, at least. Not an amazing game, but it's a neat idea. So Artoon is not a particularly good developer. If you look at their catalog, it's pretty spotty, but Blinks the Time Sweeper is one of their games for sure. Bloodwake, another one I just kept because it's, Xbox exclusive. I don't know too much about this one. Looks like it's like a tank game or something, but like I said, a lot of Microsoft published Xbox exclusive. You can't say that they weren't trying during the Xbox era. Capcom Classics Collection, just a nice little collection of older Capcom games and everything. Something I really like about the Xbox, I don't know, I like this shade of the green that they use. Now they have more, I don't know, they have a more refined green now, but I like this shade of the green. I like this logo for the Xbox. I mean, I have the store Xbox sign I got forever ago. I like this is like the branding of Xbox that I like the best, and I feel like when Xbox had its best identity, and modern Xbox I don't think just has as much of an identity, and it's Xbox is much different now. They're definitely just trying to be like, oh, we're a platform, but you can play our games everywhere. You can play them on PC, you can stream them on your, TV or whatever, and a lot of our games are coming to PlayStation and Nintendo now, so but back then I really liked the identity they had, and obviously original Xbox was not a sales success, a huge sales success by any measure, so maybe what do I know, being cool I guess doesn't pay the bills necessarily, I suppose. Castlevania Curse of Darkness, not huge on these 3D Castlevania games. They're like fine for the time, but they're not anything that you really would care to come back to again and again, for sure. What is some Cell Damage? This is a cool one. This is like a car combat game with a really cool cell shading and just weird character designs. This is a pretty fun game. This was on other stuff too, but yeah, this was a neat one. I always hear people talking about these ones. I don't have too much experience. It is interesting. I know people really like the Riddick, especially this one, Escape from Busher Bay, but the Riddick games, I think there's another one on like PS3 360. This is Xbox exclusive. Just kind of strange that people, Riddick was obviously a film series with Vin Diesel, but it's interesting that people, I think, more fondly remember the video games, which is typically, of this era, you typically do not remember the video game tie-in to a franchise better than the actual film franchise. Like, I really can't think of any other example for something like that. Usually you're like, oh, that was a great movie. Like, Batman Begins, great movie. Did you know there was a video game that kind of sucked? Like, not the other way around. Conker Live and Reloaded. This is like a remake of Conker's Bad Fur Day. It had a lot of multiplayer elements that were like Xbox Live that obviously I never played because I only got an original Xbox like in the 2010s when I started collecting more. So that was obviously long gone. But this isn't. I got this at a garage sale. This is a pricey game for a while. I think it still holds some value. I don't really know, but I remember this being one of the more pricey Xbox games. And I'm a big fan of the original Conker's Bad Fur Day, and I think a lot of the charm is lost in this one. It's definitely more playable, like it's a lot more modernized, controls a lot better, gameplay I think is a lot better overall from the 64 version. I mean, you don't have to use that controller, which is always a benefit, but I think a lot of the charm is kind of lost with this remake for sure. It censors a lot more of like the swearing, which I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's all that matters. But I mean, I think some of it's lost a little bit there. The graphics, I think, are a little bit too realistic for its own good, so it's a little less goofy, which I think is a lot of the charm. But it's still a good remake. If you're a fan of the original, it's worth a shot. That's pretty much the last we've seen of Conker in any major way besides that, what is that, Project Spark or whatever. Crash Twinsanity, aside from the Crash like 4 that they made, that Toys for Bob made like modern, this is probably the best post Naughty Dog Crash game. I really like the weird acapella music and everything. Very strange, but as someone who's not crazy about a lot of those Crash games after the original PS1 games, that one's pretty good, pretty interesting. Crazy Taxi 3. This was a Xbox exclusive, as you can see. We'll get into it a little bit more later, but Sega definitely shifted a lot of their stuff post Dreamcast. Once they were out of the game on Dreamcast, they shifted a ton of stuff to Xbox. Some games I don't have copies of, or like Shenmue 2 was Xbox exclusive, and we'll get to it more later, but it was really interesting that they kind of came in and were like, all right, you know, PS2 kind of screwed us over, so let's publish a bunch of our games on their competitor. And of course, they also had a lot of stuff on GameCube as well, but you could almost, a lot of people see Xbox as like a Dreamcast 2, and I can see why people do that for sure. A lot of Sega stuff over here on the Xbox, and I mean that's pretty cool. If you were a Sega fan and back in this era in 2001, and the Dreamcast was effectively dead and buried, and you saw Sega putting out Shenmue 2 and a Crazy Taxi 3 and, you know, some other games we'll get to, I think that'd be pretty appealing to be like, oh hey, look, Crimson Sky is probably the Xbox game you will see the most of any Xbox game. It's a fun game from what I remember. I mean, it's one of those things that it's not like gonna blow you away, but I bet for that time I probably was pretty graphically impressive, if nothing else. Dark Watch. This was like a game. I think, who developed this? High Moon, maybe? From before they were like with Activision. Oh yeah, it says it right here on the box. And Capcom published it. Kind of interesting game. There's also a game Dark Void as well, that Capcom published, but just weird stuff. Got some Dead or Alive. Dead or Alive 3, which, if I'm not mistaken, this was like a launch title or pretty close to launch. Dead or Alive 3. Tecmo is another Japanese company who kind of hitched onto the Xbox right out the gate too. You don't see a lot of Japanese support on the original Xbox for the most part, but which I think is what kind of sets it apart from the original like PS2, that era. Is there was a lot of Japanese games, even into like through PS1 and N64, Dreamcast, a lot of Japanese games, and where Xbox kind of came in and was like, we have a lot more Western games. And obviously Blinks is Japanese developed, but American published. But yeah, Tecmo was just another one of those companies who kind of hitched on to the Xbox. And Dead or Alive 3, I'm not a big fighting game fan, and even if I was, Dead or Alive wouldn't be my first pick, although Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, now this is my first pick. Am I right, guys? Am I right, fellows? Am I right, my fellow men? We love Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, right? No. This is such an outrageous and ridiculous concept of like, what if we took all the hot babes from Dead or Alive and we made them play beach volleyball in bikinis and they had jiggle physics on their boobs? Like, it's so ridiculous, but I do find it funny that it exists. So I found this actually at a Christian charity shop, and I was like, I'll take this off their hands. I'll do a good deed for these elderly people who don't know exactly what they have here. But I do find it funny. I think that you see these people on the internet who are like, this female video game character is not hot enough. I wish this character was hotter. Why are they making the women ugly? I feel like guys, your ideal game is right here for guys. Instead of complaining, just pick up the original Xbox, get Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. These guys aren't thinking. So yeah, it's a game. Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball does exist. Some Doom 3. And then Doom, I have this, but I think it's just like an expansion for Doom 3. I'm not entirely sure. Resurrection of Evil. Interesting move for them kind of to take Doom 3 and make it more survival horror based, which I think makes sense really for just the series. I guess it does make sense, but it's an interesting move. And they obviously, you know, with Doom 2016 went back to more of the crazy first person shooter, but still cool. The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. You can kind of see, in hindsight, looking back, it makes sense that Microsoft bought Bethesda, just in the fact is that Bethesda was one of these kind of original supporters of the Xbox as well. And it's kind of interesting to see that they were really there in a lot of different ways from the beginning. Oblivion was on, 360 and stuff like that, so... Fable. I'm excited for the new Fable game. I think it could be really interesting, and just excited to see where it goes. Of course, why can I not think of his name? That's absurd of me. Peter Molyneux, of course, is legendary and a bit of a meme for his overpromising on Fable. And you can, what is it? You can plant a tree, and then over the course of the game, the tree will grow. And that Connect thing with Milo, where they're like, Milo, take this piece of paper or whatever. That was funny too. So I definitely an interesting fellow, interesting guy, someone who maybe is a little bit too enthusiastic for his own good, but Fable's still an interesting series and classic, original Xbox game for sure. Lionhead, of course, shut down during the dark days of the Xbox One for really feels like no reason, but... Fable coming back, at least. It's the last game for Fable is not that horrendous Connect game anymore, right? I'm not gonna. The only Fable I've ever really put considerable time is like the first one, so I'm not gonna say too much. But Fatal Frame and Fatal Frame 2, I got these at a Goodwill for really cheap. Kind of more proof that Tecmo was just kind of there to support the original Xbox. That they got ports of both of these games. And yeah, this is a cool series. I'd like to dive into it more and like play them all beginning to end from the beginning. Because just very interesting series. Fatal Frame 3 did not come out on the Xbox. I'm wondering if it was probably just one of those things where they kind of ditched the Xbox pretty quick. 2001 it came out, and then 2005, is when the original, the Xbox 360 came out then. So they didn't get too much support afterwards for the original Xbox. Like I think like Ratatouille and some Madden games are about it. So they kind of ditched the original Xbox pretty quickly, but it's kind of interesting in hindsight looking back, like 2001 to 2005 is only 4 years. So that would be like if, the Xbox Series X and the PS5 came out in 2020 like they did, and we already got new consoles, last year in 2024. Interesting how long the console spans have ended up lasting. But I'm going to guess, my point of that was I'm going to guess Fatal Frame 3. I don't remember what year that came out, but I'm going to guess it was probably a bit too late for original Xbox, and they probably didn't see a huge purpose when they could just put it on PS2, which had 100 million units compared to like 25 million or whatever. Genma Onimusha. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is just a port of Onimusha to the Xbox. I don't know why it's Genma Onimusha. Yeah, it's just a new enhanced Xbox version of Capcom's classic. I don't know why it's Genma. Maybe there's a reason why. Someone in the comments, let me know why it's Genma. And if I'm stupid for not knowing why, I don't know. But Onimusha's cool. It's coming back. It's coming back, guys. Godfather, the game. Interesting that they did this. Just kind of weird. There was a Godfather Part 2, the game, as well for 360, PS3. Grabbed by the Ghoulies. This was... I always thought this was interesting that, an Xbox exclusive game is able to say Donkey Kong Country on the front. I mean, it makes sense. Rare did make it. If I'm not mistaken, this was like the first game that Xbox had from Rare. Like, this is the first kind of output. It was supposed to be a GameCube game. GameCube fans, you didn't miss too much on this one, guys. This one's not too hot. I mean, it's kind of whatever. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty apparent from the get-go that this Rare kind of fell off. I'm not gonna lie. Even, I mean, you could look at the GameCube era after, like, there's only one Rare game on GameCube, and it was Star Fox Adventures, and that game's not so hot. So you could kind of even look at it like, ooh, maybe Rare is not, the N64 Rare we all know and love. But, I mean, they're completely different now, stuff like Sea of Thieves and everything. So, but yeah, GameCube fans, you don't have to feel like you missed out on too much. But it is an interesting, if you're a Rare fan, interesting kind of place and time. Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Some of the worst just character designs I've ever seen. So tried to bring back Gauntlet. And then they tried kind of again. And they're like, yeah, let's do this version of Gauntlet where it's like kind of cool and epic. And yeah, you guys like God of War and Devil May Cry and stuff like that. This was probably before God of War, but you know what I mean. You know, it's kind of trying to be like that. And yeah. Halo, and Halo 2. Obviously, the Xbox's most iconic games. Pretty clearly, the Xbox's most iconic games. And I don't think Xbox would be in the same place if it weren't for these. And obviously, Halo was supposed to be like, what, an Apple exclusive first? Like Apple, like Mac exclusive, and Xbox kind of came in and was like, let's do this a little differently here. So very clearly the most probably iconic games in Xbox's library, and of course classic first-person shooters. I'm not the hugest Halo fan. I appreciate it. I like it. The only one I've really played a whole ton of is the first one. I think that's the only one I've played a whole lot of, but I mean, it's a cool series for sure, obviously. Half-Life 2, Xbox did get a Half-Life 2 port. This is my only ever experience with Half-Life 2. I didn't finish this or anything, so I can't really say too much. I know. I mean, it's commendable that they tried to port it. Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. We just obviously recently got the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle for Xbox Series X, so it's kind of funny it comes full circle. We got an Xbox game that is Indiana Jones once again. But this is not exclusive to Xbox or anything. And I don't remember too much about this one. I don't think I beat it or anything. But I think it's better than that one that they did on Wii and PS2, the Staff of Kings. That one's not very good. And I remember being really excited for that one as a kid. I think this one is more of just like a Tomb Raider clone, which I'm kind of glad that they didn't end up doing that with the new game. Indigo Prophecy, Quantic Dream, of course. So we got David Cage, and Quantic Dream, of course, starts with Omicron, the Nomad Soul for the Dreamcast. And then we get Indigo Prophecy published by Atari over here on PS2 and Xbox. This was called Fahrenheit elsewhere. And this game is a David Cage game. I think this game is like pretty funny. It kind of has that... I feel like no one talks about Indigo Prophecy, where this is a ridiculous, like, insane, stupid story. And it kind of has that Heavy Rain goofiness. But imagine if Heavy Rain was on weaker hardware, and you kind of get that goofiness in Indigo Prophecy. So shout out to David Cage. I guess not really, but, you know, funny. The Italian Job. Come on, guys. Racing with Mini Coopers is epic. I don't know what else to say. Straight epic. Jade Empire. This is a BioWare RPG. And published by Microsoft. Kind of interesting, because the first Mass Effect was published also by Microsoft and was Xbox 360 exclusive. And then EA bought BioWare eventually, and I mean, ran them absolutely into the ground. I just look at the state of that studio. But it's kind of interesting. There's another world where I think had that not happened, I would be pretty sure to say that BioWare would be a Microsoft studio. I think they'd be in much better hands than whatever EA is doing with them, making them make Anthem and God knows what else, Mass Effect Andromeda, and this new Dragon Age game doesn't look so hot. I'm not a huge BioWare fan. I just don't have a lot of experience with their games. I've never played Dragon Age, so maybe that is what the fans want. I have no idea, but I don't think that game looks great. Jet Set Radio Future, awesome game. Once again, a Sega Xbox exclusive. This is an awesome game, follow-up to Jet Grind Radio, and just great art style that still holds up. Just a ton of fun to play. Really like this series. I know that it seems like they're coming back with a new Jet Set Radio eventually, and we'll see how that goes. Tomb Raider Legend. I don't remember if this is Tomb Raider 5 or 6. I don't exactly remember, but Jeep is in it. Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance. Metal Gear Solid 2 is my favorite of the Metal Gear Solid games. And I've never sunk time into this Xbox port, but I think it's known as a pretty good port. So weird that was the only Metal Gear game on the Xbox. I don't think they brought 3 over, did they? And obviously 1 was not on there. So it's just weird that they're like, yeah, and then 4 was PS3 exclusive. So they're like, well, we'll throw 2 on there. They put Silent Hill 2 and 4 over on the Xbox as well, but they didn't put 3. So maybe they have a problem with putting 3s on the Xbox. Mech Assault, another Xbox exclusive. Known, I guess, more for like its online play more than anything. So doesn't do me a whole lot of good now, I suppose. But Midtown Madness 3, once again, racing with Mini Coopers, guys. Epic. Another Xbox exclusive. Who developed this one? I'm wondering if it says just right off the bat. I don't see it anywhere. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to waste everyone's time with that. Why do I have 2 copies of Morrowind? Oh, I have one under Morrowind and then one under Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Okay. I'm going to probably keep the Game of the Year edition version and not the version with the GameStop sticker on the middle. I don't, what's up with that? I don't know why I guess I didn't realize I had 2. This has the poster in it and everything. I'll have to see if mine has the poster and everything in it, but this has all the paperwork. I'll have to double check mine, but this is an Object Gaming First. I am taking a game out of a collection during a collection video because I do not need 2 copies of that. Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden Black. These are, I know, some of the games that are backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X. This is specifically Ninja Gaiden Black. These games are tough as nails. I am no good at these. These are as tough as nails, so I have not gotten too far. I'm not into like Souls games either. I'm just not really into games where I feel like I have to like bash my head against the wall. Like I usually like to play games to kind of relax like at the end of the day, so I'm not really like, it's not like 7 p.m. after a long day at work that I really want to like be playing something like this. Like the mood will strike every once in a while, but I can appreciate these are pretty cool games though. And once again, Koei Tecmo dropped them off some, Xbox exclusive Ninja Gaiden reboot, which was weird because, I mean, Ninja Gaiden was kind of dead. Like, they did the trilogy on NES, and then they did the trilogy, like, remake on the Super Nintendo cart, and then there was nothing Ninja Gaiden of any consequence until Xbox, so it was kind of strange. Another PlayStation game, although I guess Ninja Gaiden's not a PlayStation game, but another game known on another system, making kind of a move over to Xbox to be exclusive. Oddworld. And yeah, these are the only Oddworld games I've ever messed around with. I've never played the PS1 Oddworld games. But just kind of interesting that they're like, you know what? We're going to Xbox. We're out of here. Another Sega Xbox exclusive. This one is actually interesting because it is developed by FromSoftware. Otogi. There's also a sequel to this game as well. And a pretty neat game. I know people like the Souls games, but I kind of miss like pre-Souls from Software because they just had all kinds of bizarre games. And Otogi is more, I guess, in line with a From Software like Souls game than you would probably think, but they used to just have so many, unique games. King's Field and The Adventures of Cookies and Cream, and they were all over the place. So obviously they found their footing, so it works out for the best. But R.I.P. Panzer Dragoon Orta, so another Sega exclusive Xbox game, Xbox exclusive Sega game, I should say, and pretty cool one. I like Panzer Dragoon. This one obviously has the kind of modern graphics, more modern than like something like you would see on the Saturn, and still looks pretty nice to this day, I would say. So pretty cool game. This was a Goodwill find. I got a lot of like, I remember it was like a day where I got that and the Fatal Frames at the Goodwill one day. Pretty cool. Used to be able to find stuff at the Goodwill. Pariah, I don't know anything about this. I don't know what this is up here. Usually I always clean my games when I get them in, so I don't know how I let that slide, but My copy of Pariah has some... Oh, look, at all kinds of smegma on the bottom, too. What happened to my copy of Pariah, guys? I don't know. Sid Meier's Pirates. Live the life. I like to think that it's like Sid Meier's Live the Life, and then it has the pirates in the middle. But I have not played Sid Meier's Pirates. I know it's pretty... Sid Meier, obviously, Civilization, Pirates, pretty classic, but I have no experience. Return to Castle Wolfenstein. This was a pretty huge game as far as original Xbox like multiplayer. And it's interesting that, you know, id developed this, obviously. Activision published it. It's interesting how things worked out, where id then got bought by Bethesda, who got bought by Microsoft, and then Activision then got bought by Microsoft. So everything kind of messed up all over the place, but then comes all back together in the end. And that's just what you like to see. We got here Scoobert Dubert, Night of 100 Frights. This one was by Heavy Iron Studios, who did like SpongeBob, Battle for the Bikini Bottom. They did pretty solid platformers of that era and licensed games of that era. And from what I remember of this one, if I'm thinking of the right game, it was pretty solid, pretty decent for a licensed game of that time. I know people like this one. It has some kind of a cult following there. Sega GT 2002, this is the double pack that also has Jet Set Radio Future. So I do have two Jet Set Radio Futures as well, but I'm not going to take one out of the collection. This was a bundle pack-in of two Sega exclusive games on the Xbox. And pretty cool that, you know, Sega was like, yeah, we'll two games here that we'll have you bundle in with your console. And two pretty big games as well. And Sega GT, not exactly my thing as far as that kind of racing game, but another pretty impressive game for the time visually. SNK versus Capcom, another one that they put out over exclusively on Xbox, at least for a time. I felt like this was other places, but interesting, because I really don't think of Xbox as a fighting game console. I mean, they had Dead or Alive, and that's really what you think of it, but it's what I usually think of. Star Wars Battlefront. This was actually kind of my introduction to the Xbox, because I had friends who had Xboxes and would play this game a lot. So Star Wars Battlefront is a game I have not played in forever. I used to play this one and the second one all the time with friends at their houses. And as the kid with the GameCube, I was like, I don't get to have this game, but everyone else gets to have this game. And I really liked it a lot. So fun game. I have Battlefront 2 on PS2. I don't know what it is, because what's funny is the friend who had Battlefront 1 had PS2, friend who had Battlefront 2 had Xbox, so I guess I just did it backwards for fun, or I don't think I put that much thought into it. I should probably just have both on one console, but oh well. There are a lot of Star Wars games on the Xbox. Star Wars The Clone Wars and Tetris World, this was another bundle pack-in that you could get with the system at one point. Interesting one. I mean, there's really no connection between Star Wars The Clone Wars and Tetris Worlds. Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, pretty classic game developed by Raven and Vicarious Visions before they get thrown into the Call of Duty and Blizzard gulags, respectively. Knights of the Old Republic, the BioWare game, and then its sequel from Obsidian. It's funny how, I mean, these games came out pretty rapid fire. And these are some of the more well-known Xbox games. I'd say these are up there kind of with Halo as far as like prominent Xbox original games. And these were also on PC as well, but the only place to get them on console for that time at least was the original Xbox. Who knows what's up with that Knights of the Old Republic remake? These games have not aged specifically well, but which kind of has pushed me off of wanting to play them. I have pretty high tolerance for older games, but something about this, I was like, ugh, this is rough. Star Wars Obi-Wan, no one remembers this game. No one thinks about this game. There's not much of a reason to remember or think of this game. Got some random Superman games. This is an Xbox exclusive Superman game. Superman, the Man of Steel. I don't think I've played this one. It's at least better than Superman 64, I would imagine. But a game that's probably not very much better than Superman 64. This one's really bad. Superman Returns. This was the tie-in with the Superman Returns movie, obviously. And what's funny is that this came out like after the movie was out. I think they had to delay this game, so it came out like when the DVD of Superman Returns comes out, which I find really funny because that is just, I mean, even back then that was like, you don't really do that. You want to cash in on the hype of like the movie coming out. Usually the game would come out like a week before or the movie came out. But I'm just picturing now, like, there's I'm thinking of the new Captain America movie coming out next month or whatever. And then they're like, all right, when this movie comes to Disney Plus, we will be putting out the game on PS5. It's like, I don't think that would really work in this day and age. What is this sticking out of here? Is this a receipt I see? Oh, I didn't know I had a receipt in here. This is the GameStop near me, so I'm not going to put that address up. But this fellow spent $8.99 on this game in, is there a date on here? October 25th, 2007. He saved $1 by buying this game used, because I guess they must have had it for $9.99 brand new. So yeah, not exactly a great game, but my man bought this game in 2007. Disc fell out of this one. I don't know what's up with that. Siberia. This is a point-and-click adventure game. Got an Xbox port. Taito Legends, interestingly enough, published by Sega. Square Enix owns Taito now. I'm wondering if they owned, I don't know when they bought them. Probably not when this came out. I don't think Square Enix published a single game on the original Xbox. Correct me if I'm wrong. Squaresoft nor Square Enix, I don't think, ever published a single game on the original Xbox, and they only published one on the GameCube with Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. They were deep in PS2 land, so... this is actually a somewhat pricey, I believe, or maybe the second one. One of these is pretty pricey, these Taito Legends collections. All right, guys, prepare to get all funked up. You know it. Another Xbox exclusive Sega game. This one has the distinction of being really bad. Just not a good game. Interesting, it was developed by Visual Concepts, who now is owned by 2K. They used to be owned by Sega, obviously, when they owned the 2K series. But they now are owned by 2K, making the 2K sports games, 2K WWE, 2K NBA. So, kind of cool. Tom Clancy, Ghost Recon. I have nothing to say about some of these Tom Clancy games. Rainbow Six Critical Hour. I didn't even know I really had these, to be honest. Not really my thing. Splinter Cell's cool. This is a pretty cool series. I know there's supposed to be some kind of Splinter Cell remake that's probably never going to come out, but Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. Splinter Cell's kind of tied to Xbox. I have it on GameCube, the first one, but it was originally like a timed exclusive for the original Xbox. Then Unreal Championship 2, made by some no-name Epic Games. Don't know who they are. Probably will never go on to do anything important or that matters, but that is it. That's a look at my original Xbox collection. Like I said, interesting library. Not one that gets a lot of attention, to be honest, but interesting library nonetheless. Some good games be on the lookout for. And like I said, you can get a lot of these games for pretty cheap. So I don't know, I'm not going to say that they're ever going to be a Xbox spike in pricing. Where these games, there's going to be a bunch of Xbox games worth a ton, who knows? But I do think it's worth collecting for, especially if you have like a Series X or even an Xbox One, because a lot of these games are, not a lot, but a good chunk of these games are, backwards compatible, which is really cool. And just, I don't know, neat library and worth checking out. If you feel like, a lot of the other game libraries have been pretty, well explored by yourself, I would say that this is a good place to kind of check out, because you'll find some exclusives that you don't see anywhere else. So that's it for this collection video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, follow me on Blue Sky at Objo Gaming, and until next time, I'd like to thank you for watching.